What's something cool you recently learned about? On December 21, 2020, Jupiter and Saturn will align such that you can see them together in the same telescope, and even with the naked eye. It's called the Great Conjunction of the spheres. Yep, grab the popcorn. My bets are on interdimensional rift or ritual to summon Demon Lord. I'm betting on the convergence from Thor, the Dark World. I'm honestly ready for Malekith to unleash his wrath. Squirrels can acquire terminal velocity while plummeting to the ground, on average above 70 feet, and survive 80% of the time. This makes me wonder why flying squirrels ever evolved. If they can survive long falls, odds are they are willing to do lots of jumping at heights as it doesn't kill them. The ones that get more adept at controlling their jump are more likely to escape predators or get something they are chasing and therefore reproduce more. Rodents can't vomit. This is exactly why rat poison works. They can't vomit up the poison. I learned that from an episode of Scream Queens lol. Couple and the fact it usually has super small tiny glass shards to cut their insides up. It's a pretty hellish and inhumane way to kill them. That's the problem with the poison too. If a household pet gets to the rat first, they're now fucked too. A dog in my family got access a full bag of the thing and ate it. To our and the vet's surprise, nothing happened to her. No idea what the mortality rate is for something like this. After that, she seemed indestructible to me. Nope, it's because of the size of the glass particles. At least that's what I read. It's pretty much dependent on the animal's size and how large their intestine is. For rats, they have a very tiny intestine, so the glass particles easily tear that, but dogs have considerably larger intestines, so the particles pass through comparatively easily. If you eat the rat poison, you wouldn't die, but that doesn't mean you should do that. PSA, some rat baits kill by destroying all the clotting factors in the blood. So they bleed to death. If a dog eats rat bait then gets a tiny nick in their skin, they will not stop bleeding unless they get medical attention. If any animal or human gets a hold of rat bait, please at least go to the doctor, vet, and tell them rat bait happened. It's bad news. Sometimes guinea pigs can get hiccups that vaguely look like they're heaving in preparation to vomit, but instead will release a tiny cough. I was very startled when I witnessed one of my guinea pigs doing this because I was terrified he was somehow defying nature. Oh rats, no one who was born blind has ever gone on to develop schizophrenia. Researchers are investigating how congenital blindness may protect people from developing the condition. Interesting. It really is. There was an earlier post asking if deaf people with schizophrenia experienced audio hallucinations. Googling led to some really interesting articles. I would kill to get rid of audio hallucinations. Psychiatrists still think it's likely tied to my bipolar disorder or PTSD, but I'm fucking terrified that it's the slow onset of schizophrenia. You can get psychotic symptoms during manic episodes. The question for you is, are they limited to when you are in a manic episode or do they continue regardless? I have bipolar 1 and I almost only experience psychotic symptoms at the peak of my manic phase. Once it switches to depression, I might have very slight auras of visual hallucinations in my peripheral vision or slight audio hallucinations where I doubt if things I actually hear in the world are real or not. From having had so many very real audio hallucinations so recently, I wonder what it's like to have schizophrenia and then develop being blind is like. It must be horrifying. There's a minor character in The Haunting of Hill House who gauged his eyes out due to the hallucinations he was experiencing during drug-induced psychosis and then reveals that now in his blindness, all he can see is the horrible images that drove him to that point. Really stuck with me, just really terrible. Why don't I remember this at all? It was a PTSD drug guy in Luke's circle. I recently learned that people with schizophrenia smoke cigarettes significantly more than those without schizophrenia because the nicotine interacts with our brains in such a way that it's essentially self-medication. My father figure had schizophrenia and died of lung cancer that was misdiagnosed until it was too late, so when I learned about this apparently well-documented link, I was like, cool. My research lab is studying this. Well, kind of. Smoking is almost 3 times as prevalent in people with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, so we're investigating it in bipolar disorder at the moment. Schizophrenia and bipolar disorder have a lot of overlap in symptoms, which is also something we research. Is it possible that this is the result of a statistical anomaly? Very few people are actually born blind, and it just might be that none of them developed schizophrenia by pure chance, or, at least, no cases were documented. That vets can transplant feathers to birds and will harvest flight and tail feathers from bird who didn't make it and donate to another bird in need like an organ donor. The things they teach in the military. What do you think happened in the Air Force when they got their wings? In the UAE where I live they take falconry very seriously. They have falcon hospitals with feather libraries. Anytime a prize falcon dies prematurely, they harvest the most important feathers and store them to be used to replace missing feathers on living ones that get injured. For the last 50+ years, every submarine and aircraft carrier built by the U.S. Navy has been powered by nuclear reactors. What's more, the aircraft carriers have a 50-year service life and only need to be refueled one time. There has also never been a nuclear-related accident on board these ships. 2 subs have sank, but not because of a failure in the propulsion system. Carriers are wild. During natural disasters they'll even pull up offshore and plug in a power cable, to act as a power plant for large portions of a country. Dang, we've had colossal power banks in the ocean this whole time? In World War Z there was a nuclear sub that basically powered an entire island in return for a place to hang out and live. This would have been pretty plausible. That sub could have powered half the world at that point in the book. The islanders threw women and anything they had to get that energy. I feel like most people don't know this fact outside of those of us who work on these boats. It's refreshing to see it shared as something cool. Makes you wonder if nuclear power plants built with current levels of technology would be exponentially more safe than in the past. They absolutely are. Saying something like nuclear energy is dangerous is like saying cars are dangerous. Well, yeah, if you only look at the old ones that don't have modern safety features and were basically death boxes. The fact is scientists and engineers have developed a lot of ways to make nuclear energy far safer and have fail-safes built in such that Chernobyl and Fukushima-like incidents would be impossible. Bill Gates was trying to get a project like this off the ground in 2016 and then Trump's presidency basically killed it. The future of energy on planet Earth should be as much wind, solar, geothermal, and tidal as possible, but we will likely need non-green sources for places where those types of energy are not viable and when there are spikes in energy usage. I believe safer nuclear should be that option. The shower water on Alcatraz was intentionally kept very hot. This is so prisoners wouldn't get used to cold water and be able to swim to shore if they escaped. Is cold water resistance something that can be built up?